If there's one thing this show is doing right, they got the bending down. May I humbly remind everyone. I am so scared and excited. They really did just barbecue a man in the first 5 seconds of this show. They said, what kids show? This is Netflix. Grow up and barbecue a man. I actually don't mind that this show is going to be a little more mature. I think we knew when the creators left that things were going to be different. I saw a comment on TikTok that said the mistake of the Netflix creators was describing the show to be mature like Game of Thrones rather than mature like Lord of the Rings. Because Lord of the Rings should be what they're going for. Lord of the Rings was able to depict these very like scary and dark themes of war while still remaining very hopeful, very earnest. So it's a question of whether this show is going to be able to do the same thing while aging up the content for an audience of fans that has grown older. Starting with Aang's past is an interesting change. I think getting his backstory across in this way is a good way to translate the backstory. Because if you remember in the original animated show, there's an entire episode devoted to Aang and Zuko's backstory, the Storm episode. But the original show had 23 episodes. This one has 8. So you can't really afford to devote one episode just to flashback, just to backstory. And though putting it at the beginning, it kind of helps the story flow better in a chronological sense, I feel like when you do this, you lose a sense of like discovery, because in the original show, Aang is a mystery. Katara and Sokka, they serve as the proxy for the audience. They learn about Aang as we learn about Aang, so that reduces the need for exposition. And that also helps us connect with Katara and Sokka as characters because we feel like we're going on this journey with them. We feel like we are discovering things with them. One thing I will say is that the show is already very visually stunning. They really brought this world to life in a very immersive and beautiful way. I understand the criticisms of the costumes that they don't look realistic, but I like them. Sue me! I like having them have this cartoony, oversaturated vibe that makes the world more fantastical. It makes it less dark. And if they're making the tone dark, then the costumes in a way balance it out by giving it that brightness, that friendliness, that element of fantasy.
You will always be my friend.
It's not tears, I just drank too much cactus juice.
You're right. Just needs to go up where things always make more sense. At least for now.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but in the original show, I feel like Aang kind of intends to run away. Here it felt like he was like, well, I'm just gonna go for a ride. I'm gonna go for a little ride. I'm gonna come back in 2 seconds. Like he didn't intend to leave. And I think it was actually more devastating in the show when he means to run away because he has to live with that guilt. I think it's more devastating when Gyatso is like, Aang, I won't let them take you away from me, but Aang has already left. The fact that the air nomads wanted to separate Aang and Gyatso in the original animation, that was an important moment for Aang because not only is he afraid of the responsibility of the Avatar, but he's afraid that he has to give up the people he loves. They have Aang deliver that dialogue saying he doesn't want to be alone, but we don't actually see or why he's going to have to be alone. So for me, that didn't hit as hard. But those Gyatso and Aang moments were, they hit. Oh. Can we talk about the bending? Because if there's one thing this show is doing right, they got the bending down. May I humbly remind everyone. Master Skywalker, there's too many of them. What do we do? Katara! Katara! I love her.
Yeah, they just don't appreciate your incredible leadership skills.
That's right, they don't realize it. Very funny.
What I like is that these characters do feel more realistic, but they still feel like, you know, they still feel like the same characters. Because when you're translating to live action, I feel like you have to leave behind some of the more like theatrical, cartoonish qualities. They have to be toned down, otherwise it comes across as like weirdly over the top.
You should be helping out more around the village anyway.
Not everything is about preparing to fight.
We're at war.
Waterbending is what built our culture. Our way of life. Keeping it alive is our duty.
Keeping ourselves alive is our duty.
I know that. And if Dad were here...
But he's not here. I am.
Ooh, we're gonna get to the subject of Sokka's sexism being removed. I have opinions. I might be in the minority here, but I don't mind them removing the Sokka's sexism subplot. Do I think it needed to be removed? No, not at all. There was nothing wrong with it. It wasn't a case of some of these other old movies where you have a very outdated stereotype that, if still left in, could cause harm to those communities today. The entire plot showed the harmfulness of and the incorrectness of Sokka's sexism. It wasn't a sexist plot, it was an anti-sexist plot. It was also important to Sokka's character in the animation. Sokka's sexism is heavily influenced by his trauma, by the fact that he was the only male left behind, by the fact that at such a young age he was told he has to bear the responsibility for all the men who have left to go fight. And him overcoming this was an important character arc for him. However, in the show, it seems like they're including that exact same character arc just without his sexism, which I think that's fine. Sokka unlearning his sexism, I think that was a good thing to model for young kids. Don't get me wrong on that. To me, having Sokka's problem be not that he has become sexist as a result of this, but that he has become too overprotective, that he has become too closed off to strangers like Aang, like that he's going to put his own people before other people. He's going to put the waterbenders before this strange airbender. And learning that he needs to let go of these fears if he wants to be a real leader. I think that's, a more interesting story for his character, and I think that arc actually ties into the larger themes of Avatar better.
My father has banished me until I find the Avatar, and that's exactly what I'll do.
Okay, I saw so many people complaining about the Zuko voice and characterization that I thought it was gonna be wildly off. He sounds and acts just like animated Zuko. Did we all forget animated season 1 Zuko was a drama queen? Not just season 1, Zuko was a drama queen, period.
The scar's not on the wrong side! Why can't I do it? Instead of lightning, it keeps exploding in my face. Like everything always does. Don't patronize me. You know what it's supposed to look like.
Sorry, Sifu Hotman.
And stop calling me that! Get out of here! I'm never happy.
That's what the Avatar is. He's hope. And we need that just as much as we need food.
Cannot give up hope, for hope is all we have.
Well, that's just silly. I don't sound like that. Oh man, this writer's a genius.
Jokes aside, I do really love her as Katara. I like this emphasis they're putting on Katara feeling useless because she's the only waterbender left in the Southern Water Tribe, and her having to deal with the trauma of being the last of her kind in the tribe and bonding with Aang over it. I think that's something they could have expanded on in the original animation. So the fact that they're putting it in here is proving to me that the live, it has some rights. There is some value in this. There were times to me in the animated version, not just when I watched it when I was older, but even when I watched it when I was a kid, that I felt like the show felt too almost flippant and lighthearted for some of these circumstances that were happening. Because it was a kid's show, which is not a problem. It's a kid's show. They delivered, like I said, the mature themes to kids very well. But I'm enjoying seeing them not bound by those constraints. I was worried that when they said they were making it more mature, that they were just going to put like violence for just to have violence for shock value. But so far it seems like the added maturity, like I said, is just what the original show hinted at but couldn't depict. So yeah. I do miss seeing them just act like kids though. I think that was an important character moment for Aang to help Katara just like get to be a child. I know this is just the first episode, but I will comment on it. I think that's one of the things that in making it more mature and serious, you lose, because Avatar: The Last Airbender, I think it's always been described as a comfort show. And what the live action so far is missing, it might be preemptive judgment, is these moments of comfort, silliness, and fun.
You will always be my friend.
The callback to Gyatso's words had me emotional here, and I think it was good for like tying the story to having an overarching arc for the story, having Gyatso in the beginning and then bringing back his words in the end. But this was an important moment for Aang and Katara and for establishing the trio as this new family, and I'm a little disappointed we didn't get that.
I'm the Avatar. And this is just the beginning.
Okay. Everyone was hyping me down. People were like, this is gonna be horrible, this is the worst thing ever. Like, it was fine. It's just the first episode though, so we will see. I think after the creators left, I had to accept that this was not going to be a recreation of Avatar. And I've said this before, I don't think there's value in doing shot-for-shot recreations, because then what's the point? You can just watch the original one. Unless we're talking about the live-action Lion King, because yes, I did enjoy seeing a shot-for-shot recreation of the exact same movie, just with different CGI and more hyper-realistic animals, okay? It's like a nature documentary, but they're singing Hakuna Matata. How can anyone not love that? Overall, 7.5 out of 8 cabbages for episode 1. If you want to see my cabbage rankings for the next 8 episodes, please do subscribe. Actually, I'm not going to make that promise because this is the thing when they drop all 8 at once. I feel like by the time I'm going to publish all 8 videos, no one's going to be interested anymore. Maybe I'll do like a mid-season and an end-of-season video. I'm not sure. We shall see. Please let me know your thoughts in the comments because I enjoyed that episode and I'm interested in hearing from people who both liked it and who didn't like it. FLAMEO, hot men!